Okay. Reconvene from closed session, Josh, any report on the closed session?
No reportable action. Thank you, President Miller.
Okay, we'll open the meeting and do the pledge of allegiance. The pledge of allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5, public comment. Members of the public may address the authority on matters that are within the local authority's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda at this time. Speakers are generally limited to 3 minutes each, however, the chair may limit this and this person wishing to speak can remotely through the electronic meeting link by scanning the QR code or teleconference number when recognized by the chair. The GCA encourages public comments and requests that speakers present their remarks in a respectful manner within established time limits and focus on issues which directly affect the DCA or within its jurisdiction. Is there any public comments at this time?
President Milbar, we have not received public comment requests in the room or online. And I will ask for all remote locations if there are any public comments from your respective locations. Hearing none, I think we can proceed.
Move on to item 6, consent calendar. Item A. Do you have any explanation in this one before we proceed?
No, it's on the consent calendar, so we'd be happy to answer any questions and be available to provide staff for the board would like, but we're anticipating you could just you move forward with motion on the consent calendar.
Okay, no public comment on the consent.
In the room, we have not received any public comment requests. President Milbar, online, I can validate that we have not received public comment requests either. I make a call to our remote locations. Any public comment requests?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
On the table by moving and approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
is this a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay. You can proceed.
Thank you. Starting with President Milbar,
Aye.
Director Martin.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Garza,
Aye.
Director Smira,
Aye.
Alternate Director Flinsky.
Yep.
Was that a yes?
Yes. Yep.
Alternate Director Lamoureux
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Thank you. We can proceed to the next item.
Fine. Item 7, approval of minutes of May 21, 2026. Regular meeting minutes. Are there any comments by the board members? None hearing. Any public comment on the minutes?
No public comment requests in the room or online. Both locations.
No.
public comment in Santa Cruz. Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we need a motion.
All right, I'll move approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Tony moved.
Pardon?
I think you need a second. Director Estremera moved here.
Okay,
Yeah, second.
all right. That's a roll call vote also, right?
President Milbar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Garza,
Just for the record, I wasn't present at the meeting, but I did read the minutes, so I'll move in approval.
Director Smira,
Aye.
Director Flinsky,
Yes.
Alternate Director Lamoureux,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
All right.
Meeting minutes approved. Receive.
Approved. We'll move on to item 8. AA. The monthly report, Graham, present the report.
Thank you, President Hobart. Now, Claudia's got our monthly report up on the screen. Claudia, if you would please proceed to the executive summary. So in terms of our key updates across the program, we continue our support to the Department of Water Resources on ongoing permit efforts. Engineering studies are advancing to really move the design forward and support a Class 3 cost estimate, which is planned for release. We're targeting Q2 of 2027. So the full engineering basis for that estimate, along with the updated cost estimate, is on track for about a year from now, 11 or 12 months from now. So the intensity on the estimate is really picking up. We're shifting focus now from the engineering stages to the development and rollout of the cost estimate. And then thirdly, the internal activities within the DCA, plans, procedures, workflows, all with the eye on transitioning to the delivery phase of the program, is also an ongoing key priority for us. In terms of our financial status on the program, in direct regards, do you need some assistance with the iPad? Is it working? You good? Okay, thank you. I know the screen's a little hard to see. Thank you. So we have for our fiscal year 25-26 budget, $65 million approved last June. We're currently forecasting an estimate at completion of 57.3 for the end of the fiscal year. So the underrun is starting to grow a little bit, as it has typically done. There's a couple of real key considerations here. Number one, it has been the pattern of, as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, where we have underspend occurring in certain pockets of the program, we're able to start to rely on that underspend to be realized at the closeout process of the fiscal year. So we really start to take into account those underruns and feel comfortable representing them as underspend. Whereas early in the year, we may see that happening, but there's a lot of potential for change and shifting of priorities and additional or adjusting scope items. And so we don't tend to really start talking about underruns until we get at least halfway or more through the fiscal year. So that's one piece of this. At the beginning of the fiscal year, so last year's budgeting process, we had between $5 and $6 million set aside for geotech work and survey work. It was approved as part of the budget and then not issued through the task order because of the preliminary injunction that was in place at that time. So we've held on to those funds through the fiscal year. Once the preliminary injunction was removed this spring, we did issue an amendment to our field investigation teams to begin the ramp up process. It was, in my mind, a very conservative amendment. Essentially, we didn't want the work that they were embarking on to be limited by the funds that we processed and how they back in the process the second amendment again to deal with it. The reality is underspends within the program are essentially pulled back to the DCA through an annual closeout process. So the way that we wrap up each fiscal year is for each task order, we go through a final true up amendment to reconcile the actual amount spent within that task order and reconcile that with the budgets that they're authorized to spend. So essentially every task order is brought to a zero balance. And so in doing that, any underruns at that point conceptually move back to the DCA's unspent costs. So we issued a substantial amendment to our geotechnical and survey teams. The field work is ongoing. There are 2 drill rigs out in the field right now. I'd say the ramp up is slower than anticipated, not terribly surprising. It's been quite some time since those teams have been out on the ground. So there's logistics to sort through, a lot of coordination work that's happening. I do anticipate that we'll pick up the pace and really get back onto our curve of field work that we want to be. But for now, we're underspending in May and June with respect to the field work. So that's another contributor to the growing underrun that we have here on the program. So at this point, we're looking at about $7.7 million underrun. I will expect as we fully close out the fiscal year, there will be additional underrun as we really increase that tightening that we do and we ratchet down and zero out each of the task orders. In terms of work progress, we're 85% complete for the fiscal year, 82% spent, and this is as of the end of May. So there's 1 month left in the reporting period associated with this update. And we'll get into the details on that when we go to the progress reporting slide in terms of our small business and DVBE participation, we're at 9% of committed contracts, 8% of invoice to date represented by small business participation. We do have ongoing procurement, the programmatic geotechnical services. We are expecting statements of qualifications back from qualified vendors June 29th. So right around the corner, we should be receiving back proposals to begin starting the evaluation process with the objective of bringing back a request to award recommendation to the board in October. So Claudia, if we could go to, and I'll let, I know Jessica will be providing her communications manager update, so I won't step on the outreach related items that I know Jessica's going to come. So Claudia, can you go to the progress report summary, please?
Hang on, something's happening with the links.
Great, thank you. So the left side of the graph, what we call the donut graph, represents the full budget for the fiscal year of 65 million. We've got 3 contracts and task orders, a value of 62.15. So that's been issued in the form of contracts. However, our estimate at completion for the year is 57.2. So that represents for you, there's still quite a bit outstanding in terms of issued contract. But even still above and beyond, or I should say below the 57.2 EAC, there are going to be additional pockets that runs back that we don't like to yo-yo our way towards the end of the fiscal year. It's generally been an increasingly tightening process where we start to ratchet down the estimate at completion. So we're not overshooting at this point, but we're getting closer to what I anticipate will be the ultimate real spend at the end of the fiscal year. And really the thing to take note of here is that total contracted value of 62.15 versus the EEC of 57.2. By the time we're done with our complete closeout reconciliation process, those 2 numbers are the same number.
These pads, we're not, we don't have that.
You don't see a screen pusher. Yeah, let's see if somebody can get a hand. Thanks, Nick. I have some of this. Okay, I've got it there.
Where's that? Down here.
It should be, are you not sharing screens with those iPads?
Do you have a page number?
No, we can,
Oh, they're
just the packets.
They're free to navigate the packets.
It's page 139.
We have screens if they want them.
Yeah, 139.
Page. Oh,
Sorry, I apologize. I saw you messing with it. I was thinking you were trying to get back to the Zoom meeting. I thought you were running, because mine has the Zoom meeting running last.
Yeah, I know. It has a copy of the actual packet.
Yeah.
But there's not hyperlinks from the actual agenda item to where it goes in the packet. So you have to go into one frame.
I see. That's probably right.
I just think too many games.
Really, just for me, it's so if there's a link to be able to see automatically, like, restoring, I don't have that. Okay, I don't know if there's one like that.
Yeah, I normally, when we run our meetings in our standard boardroom, there's a screen in front of you that is being shared, what is also on, and so you don't have to scan through anything.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, okay. Sorry,
There's more room on awareness.
sure. President Milbar, you're.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Okay. Okay, so, in terms of just to finish up the donut graph, so we currently have about 2.8 that's sitting in reserve, and that number will continue to grow as we start to close out and finish a festival. But really, that reserve amount at this point is the difference between the total contracted value and the issued budget for the fiscal year. Looking at the right-hand side of the graph, at the very top is the complete summary, 85% complete of all contracted work. So this is when we issue task orders with defined scope of work. That is calculated through a dollar-weighted analysis where we're now collecting monthly anticipated progress and actual performance from all of our vendors. We translate that into a percent complete for that contracted work. So this is a reflection of the amount that is contracted versus the 82% estimated spend. And again, that is based on the amount contracted. So you can see now that we are anticipating an underrun, hence the 82% spent with only 1 month left to go within the fiscal year. So we are anticipating an underrun. Of the different divisions within the program, engineering, which has approximately half of the contracted value, is pretty well on track. That team has been working on the advanced engineering work necessary to then kick off the cost estimate, as well as ramping up the cost estimating teams that are supported by that division. So the progress and spend there is very much on track. The next 3 items, field exploration, surveying, land acquisition, largely connected to the field work, which is just now ramping up. And looking specifically at the field exploration item, you can see on the left under the title field exploration FY 25-26, there's a total task order value that's been issued of 4.626 million. But at this point, the estimated spend is at 1.7. So unless things really take off, I would expect that we're going to have a pretty significant underspend as well as underperformance in this area compared to that. Surveying similarly has been limited to
Did you expect that to occur?
I did. Yeah, but we issued the amount conservatively. There was no harm in providing the sort of a conservative top line amount in case there was a really efficient and unexpectedly efficient launch. There are going to be limitations here. So, yeah, I mean, I did expect that, President. And again, since there was not competition for those funds, we have a generally otherwise underspending. We have had sufficient reserve. There's no competition for those funds, and so we really need to overthink trying to get to exactly in terms of how much we thought we might spend in that area.
Would it be possible to have a cursory view, I mean, with some pictures of what they're doing out there? Would that be meaningful to us to see physically what they're doing? And
We'd be happy to bring an update back to the board in August, if that's okay. I think it would give us a little more time to get the kinks worked out and get everything back up and running. And I think it would be helpful to bring back the field exploration manager to report to the board on what activities are happening in the field and provide you some more real-time information.
Yeah, and I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, happy to. The remaining items on the program, on the progress report, program support, communications, executive support, and then the collection of other agreements that don't have deliverables, which is one of the key metrics that we look at for progress reporting. Generally on track. We've got probably the most notable is the executive support task orders, which are the second from the bottom. These are covering a variety of services for the DCA executive team, and one of the key areas here that we envisioned at the beginning of the fiscal year, so a year ago, was to provide independent reviews in preparation for the cost estimate. Since that time, we've developed a much more refined sequence of activities and timeline of development of the cost estimate. So really what's happening here is a lot of the concepts that were envisioned at the budgeting stage are really getting bumped to July, August, September. So we've just now got a much better handle on the timeline and schedule. And so these activities just aren't quite ready.
I have a question on the land acquisition.
Sure, that's okay.
So is the 903,695, is that for the actual cost of actually purchasing the property, or is that for the services people that
At this point in time, we're not acquiring any land in permanent form. We're purely acquiring either for the field programs, it's temporary entry permit, supporting the ordered entry process, but these are just for temporary entry in both cases. The other key thing that the land acquisition team is working on right now is title research. And so that's mostly desktop work, gaining those title reports, processing, analyzing those. So that's another substantial portion of that.
Thank
you. Questions? Have we started to fund any long time acquisition issues? Have we done any of the expenses on funding long-term along the permanent production, and delivery time issues of items.
Well, we're still to a couple of points there, Director. First of all, we need the completion of the implementation votes amongst all of the participating public water agencies to engage in permanent acquisition activities. Until that point, it's not entirely clear that the project is moving forward, and it would be premature to purchase land in any sort of permanent form at this point. Secondly, we are somewhat budget limited right now, and the acquisition of land, and even if we were in a position to acquire permanent land, we quickly exceed the value of one of our fiscal year budgets at the moment. So there's a big ramp up coming after the decisions amongst the water agencies to move forward with this program. And then additionally, within the schedule of our program, which is most currently connected to the development of the cost estimate, that will be fed into the updated benefit cost analysis. There is a representation of the property acquisition timeline. So it does capture conservative assumptions about how that process will work and how long it will require to obtain permanent purchase or easement of necessary land. All of that said, we're at this point still preparing for that stage of the program, like performing the title research, performing property boundary surveys. These are all the necessary preceding activities before you can really start preparing for and actually acquiring land. So we are preparing for those long lead items, Director Weed, by doing the necessary early work, but we're not to the point now where we're engaging in conversations. So
no, that's been done. Relatively minor dollar amount in the big picture, but we had the catastrophe in the building. Is there an estimate on any remuneration we'll receive either from insurance or our lease agreement, and any idea what that magnitude might be?
Well, we abated rent when the emergency occurred. So as of April 8th, I have not paid rent on that structure. That's for the provisions of our contract. In terms of the cost associated with repair work, to date, the building has been dealing with the remediation work and restoring the facilities that they're responsible for. At this point, we're awaiting bids from contractors to finish the repair within our suites. It's largely sheetrock and flooring work that needs to be done, data lines repaired. In terms of the status, total cost of that, I'm not aware that we received those bids yet, but I'll wait for Jennifer to see if we have received bids.
One bid. So.
Okay, so we will have more to share, Director Weed, when we have completed this process that we're in now, collecting and considering bids being provided.
That would include the cost of acquiring this space for having the on-site and those type of issues.
Yes, we can summarize the full impacts and costs. So, where we have had to rent additional space, and also deducting from that rent that we are paying. So that completes my summary monthly report. President Milbar, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Tony, Martin? No questions? Any public comment, Ms. Rodriguez?
President Millibar, I can confirm that we don't have any public comment requests in the room or online for this item, but I will make a call to our remote locations.
No public comment in Santa Clarita.
Thank you. And we can proceed.
Okay, we can, let's see, there's no action here, so we'll move on to item 8B. Adopt resolution approving the investment policy. So, Sam Smalls, there's going to be a report.
And Sam is online.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, Chair Millibar and members of the board. My name is Sam Smalls. I'm the Treasury and Debt Manager in the Office of the CFO at the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. One of my primary roles is to invest Metropolitan's operating funds, which currently resides around 1.7 billion. Every year, I bring to Metropolitan's board an updated investment policy and a request to delegate authority from the board to our treasurer, Ms. Kitano Kasaine, for the ensuing fiscal year to manage and invest our 3 portfolios. The goals of our investment policy, which mirrors yours, is to provide safety of principal, liquidity to make funds available as needed, and to earn as much money as we can through yield. We have completed this year's cycle last week with Metropolitan's board adoption of our investment policy for fiscal year 26-27. And in a similar process and on a parallel track, timing-wise, my staff updated DCA's investment policy and this board agenda item before you today. Your policy has been updated to ensure that it complies with the requirements of the government code, that it conforms to the investment policy certification standards established by the California Municipal Treasurers Association, provides a balance between investment restrictions and investment flexibility, and expresses investment objectives and preferences with clarity and consistency. This year, there was only one update. Actually, next slide, please. This year, there was only one technical update to DCA's policy, reflecting an extension in the California Government Code for commercial paper investment terms to a maximum of 397 days. Highlighted in the attachment of the policy is a footnote in the summary table, which we included for clarity related to a change we made last year that only new purchases in our medium-term corporate note sector need to comply with a minimum AA rating from at least one rating agency. Next slide. So this year is pretty simple, not much changed except for that compliance item. So our recommendation, and I believe we have staff's concurrence, is to approve the statement of investment policy for fiscal year 26-27 and to delegate authority to the treasurer, who is also Ms. Kitano Kasaine, to invest DCA's funds for fiscal year 26-27. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions from the board? Let me throw out one. I was surprised at one time to learn that an aqua-related organization was not complying with the constraints on investments against Russia during the invasion. Is your investment policy in compliance with the state and federal guidelines for investment policies? And do you have any other political or social limitations on your investment policy?
We certainly comply with any OFAC related constraints, I think, as you're suggesting, with certain investments that might relate to that. But I would remind that this is fixed income, and so those opportunities are close to nil in terms of what our code prescribes for municipal funds to be invested. But to your second question, we don't currently have any other criteria, like social criteria for, let's say, like ESG or anything at the moment. We are exploring those opportunities to see how those might work and provide some benefits, as well as not harm our yield. And so we would explore that. And if there's an opportunity, certainly come back and present those for your consideration.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you. Sam, thank you for the report. The question I have for you is with regards to the role of treasurer. If Katano is not available, she's on leave or something, who's delegated the role of treasurer?
Sure. That is Adam Benson. I believe he's on the line here as
Great.
well, and he can speak to that.
Yes, hi, Director Garza, Adam Benson. I am, as you may know, Katano is out, and I am the acting delegate for Metropolitan and also serving in her capacity temporarily as DCA treasurer.
Great, thank you. Just for clarity and transparency, appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay.
And as much as Adam and I are the managers overseeing it, the real work's done by my staff on a day-to-day basis. So they're there working hard.
Okay. Any public comment? Ms. Rodriguez?
President Millibar, we do not have any public comment requests in the room or online. We'll check with our remote locations. Any public comment requests?
President Millibar, I just had a brief comment on the report before we go to public comment. I just want to thank Sam for his very concise and clear presentation of this item. It was very easy to understand, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. We need a motion to adopt resolution approving the investment policy.
So moved, President Millibar.
Now second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote, Ms. Rodriguez.
President Millibar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Garza,
Aye.
Director Sturmera,
Aye.
Alternate Director Polinsky,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Alternate Director Lamoureux,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution passes. We can proceed.
So we're approved. We'll move on to item 8C. Adopt resolution approving amended DCA travel policy. And Graham will start this one off.
I will. Thank you, President Millibar. I'm just going to use the staff report to kick off this conversation. The board will recall that in June of last year, 2025, the board of directors adopted a revised policy that modified what had been a consistently used approach to billing rates that tended to use an all-inclusive approach to travel reimbursement, expense reimbursement. We've now shifted to direct reimbursement of those costs, and as a result of having spent the year working through the policy that was adopted in June of 25, we've come back with some recommendations for adjustments and cleanup, and I'll review those with you now. First of all, we would like to establish that while the current policy allows the executive director to adopt implementing procedures, there is a level of detail that limits the practical effort and benefits of implementing procedures. Where we can revise on the draft policy would remove a lot of that detail and shift that into a procedures document that the executive director, executive team, including Josh, that we can work to refine instead of having to come back to the board of directors when we'd like to tweak some of those technical procedure level efforts. And so that's many of the changes within the travel policy are just that, moving information from the policy itself into a supporting procedures document. Hotel rates in the area. So our current policy allows vendors to use what we have negotiated as DCA contract rates for many of the local hotels. We do typically, within our policy, rely on federal GSA approaches, but there are a few instances where there is necessary to have adjustments and additional pathways. And so with the hotels in the area, they can be highly variable depending on what's happening in the area. When there's events in the area and conferences and things, the rates at these hotels can really escalate. far beyond GSA. And so we've had success through negotiated rates, which are slightly higher than GSA rates. But we do tend to have opportunities there, even when there are events in the area that our vendors can still rely on those DCA rates. But we would like to clarify that and prioritize the use of GSA rates within the policy. So that's a pretty simple change. We just want to tweak that to make sure that we are attempting first to obtain GSA using the DCA negotiated rate. We do within the policy allow for the use of temporary duty assignment payment instead of direct reimbursement. This is used only for very few individuals that do commute regularly to the DCA office. We performed an analysis to establish the benchmark value of that and to ensure that the DCA is also getting value, not only in terms of the quality of individuals we're able to attract into the program and have engaged either full-time or close to it, but also making sure that financially it makes sense for the DCA. And so that benchmarking analysis set the reimbursement amounts associated with the temporary duty assignments, and the amendment included would allow the DCA to adjust that amount using an inflationary factor instead of having to repeat the analysis every year in order to make adjustments. And so it would be our intention. We anticipate using the inflation adjustment approach for most years, many years, and periodically conducting an updated benchmarking analysis. We think there's a change in the market that warrants it. And then lastly, we do want to address deductions for non-compliance. So the DCA currently allows or disallows or deducts portions of reimbursement requests for non-compliance. The amendment expressly clarifies this approach. And so we do that now in practice. This is something that we need to establish in words and be very clear about within the policy and procedures. So within the packet, there are a number of items. First, there's the resolution item. Then there is a clean version of the updated travel policy, followed by a track changes version of the travel policy. So you can see what was removed from that. And then additionally, there's a clean version of the travel expense procedures document, which is modified also from the original policy. And so similarly, we have a version that is now track changes from what was the policy. So you can see where text was moved. You know, the policy was the starting point. We kept it, some language in the policy, we ended up reverting and moving into the procedures document so that you can see the full trail of how these documents move.
So this all been approved and read by Josh and compliance and all that?
Yeah, that's correct. In addition, the travel policy needs to be approved by DWR, and so we've worked closely with them to get their feedback and incorporate a number of helpful edits that they had as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. Is that the presentation?
That is the presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. I mean, there is the recommended action to adopt an attached resolution approving the amended allowable travel expense policy, but I don't want to get in front of any additional discussion.
First, are there any questions from the board?
I have one, Chairman, by name. Thank you. Thank you. Really comprehensive in your work here, so thank you for that. The question I have is regarding any anticipated cost savings by this policy change. I know there's some process in terms of outlining the language. I get that, but in terms of us kind of favoring towards GSA rates, we anticipating cost savings from this.
I say short answer, yes. Defaulting to GSA is going to result in a cost savings when they're available. That's the unpredictable part. So it's difficult to quantify exactly what savings will result because it's so circumstantial. But yes, I think having experienced the year and seeing how vendors are utilizing this policy, I think defaulting to GSA is the right thing to do, and we will receive an amount of cost savings as a result.
And the last question I have is, we're able to piggyback on the GSA rates. This agency, is it going to do that?
Yes.
Yes,
It establishes for us what we are willing to reimburse. So yes.
Okay.
Just wanted, there's more you want to say? No,
Sure. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this item, Mr. Rodriguez?
President Mulbar, I can confirm we have no public comment requests online or in the room for this item. from our remote locations, do we have any public comment requests?
No public comment from Santa Clarita.
None here.
President Milbar, before you move to a motion, staff has one requested edit to the resolution. In the last sentence of section 2, there's a reference to the management partners agreement, and that should be a reference to the Bradner Consulting agreement. So we request a motion be to approve the resolution as amended.
Okay, so we need a motion to adopt resolution approving amended DCA travel policy as amended.
Please.
Chair, there's no further questions and comments. I'll move for approval of the resolution as presented, with the amendment requested by General Counsel.
Certain. And we have a second roll call vote. Is this a roll call vote? Okay. So,
President Milbar,
aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Garza,
Aye.
Director Stamera,
Aye.
Alternate Director Plinsky,
Yes.
Alternate Director Lamoureux,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Okay. Well, it's approved. We'll move on to item 8D. Adopt resolution approving the continued use of Gwendolyn Buchholz. Permit Engineering Inc. agreement and its first amendment. We'll start with a report from Adrian Brown.
Good afternoon, TCA Board and Board President. Today we'd like to talk about the current contract with Gwendolyn Buchholz, also known as Permanent Engineer. She currently provides the DCA with on-call environmental planning and support consulting services. She presently serves as the DCA's environmental division manager. In this capacity, she provides input and key background knowledge and historical information to the DCA. In most recent years, Ms. Buchholz's services were initially engaged by way of competitive solicitation. Back in 2018, we brought on technical services, which at the time was known as engineering design services. She was an employee of Jacobs. In recent years, she moved on to semi-retirement, at which time the DCA decided to engage her services independently through a sole source contract. Currently, given the state of inflation and the expected increases in the workload in the upcoming months and years, her future task orders will most likely exceed the $250,000 signature authority that the executive director has. So the attached resolution would encourage you to consider allowing continuance of her contract and to allow her task orders to go above the $250,000 amount going forward. So staff would like to recommend that the board authorize the executive director to continue to use the enclosed contract, its amendment, and to issue task orders related to the agreement in the amount of $250,000 annually, consistent with the budget amounts.
Any questions of the board? No questions? Any public comment on this item?
President Milbar, no public comment requests online or in the room for this item. I'd like to confirm from our remote locations.
No public comment from Santa Clarita.
No public comments in Palmdale. I did have a question.
Please proceed.
I didn't see what the balance is of the $1,050,000 total budget.
Hang on, Alternate Director Lamar, I need to do some fast math in my head. So to date, this contract was started with the term of July 1, 2022. So we're 4 years into this contract term. We've generally been hovering around the 200 to just under 250 range with Ms. Buchholz for each fiscal year. So the reality is we are approaching maximum compensation, but we're not quite there yet. I think there may be a need to come back in the future to augment the maximum contract value, but we do not need to do it for next fiscal year's issuance. There's some other considerations at play that I don't think we should get into here, but I guess alternate director Lamoureux, if there's a need to revisit the overall maximum compensation on the contract, we will bring it back to the board. At this point, we are not requesting that.
Thank you.
And we already covered public comment, right? Okay, somebody needs to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving continued use of Gwendolyn Buchholz Permit Engineering Inc. agreement and its first amendment.
Move to approve staff recommendation.
We have a second?
I'll second.
1 second. Now we have a roll call vote.
President Milbar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Garza,
Aye.
Director Stamera,
Aye.
alternate Director Plinsky,
Yes.
alternate Director Lamoureux,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes.
And we will move on to item 8E. Conduct a public hearing on fiscal year 2026-27 budget, including discussion and vacancies and related matters, and consider passing resolution approving the fiscal year 26-27 budget. And we'll, Brandon will explain to us how to proceed.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Milbar. Again, I'll refer to the packet and to the board memo that's been provided by staff. Within the packet, we have summarized the draft budget for FY 26-27. Just to get right to it, proposed budget is 65 million for next fiscal year, which mirrors the current budget we have for FY 25-26. Within this budget, we have 1.06 million in unallocated reserve. And then there's an additional 3.5 million of contingency built into field work, geotechnical boundary surveying activities, as well as executive support services. So the contingency is distributed in a couple of locations where it's likely to be tapped. And then there's an additional 1.06 million carried in the executive office for reserve. The memo it summarizes the details associated with the development of the budget. This has been reviewed both by the Delta Conveyance Office, Department of Water Resources, per the requirements of the Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement. We collected their feedback and incorporated these items into the budget. Additionally, the DCA's Finance Committee, chaired by Director Martin, we met last week, reviewed the final draft of the budget, and again, collected feedback in which the committee voted by minute order to recommend that the board approve. Within this budget, the main activities for the fiscal year: complete the system-wide engineering and class 3 cost estimate, including independent external reviews of the base estimate, contingency, and schedule for the program. Complete a significant portion of what we refer to as the 30% geotechnical and survey program. So this is the data necessary to support the 30% design, which will be the handoff to engineer record team. So we call that the engineer record team takeover. Address the necessary DCA systems and requirements, based to focus really first on the compensatory mitigation final design, which is now a schedule informed priority. Evaluate contract packaging alternatives, procurement, contract templates, and insurance program development items. Many of those do circle back to the cost estimate. Continue advancing long lead items such as property acquisition, power supply, and then industry outreach and engagement with consultants, contractors, and vendors. So we do have a brief presentation here. Thank you, Claudia, for pulling this up. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So here we have the comparison of line items within the budget for your review. So this compares last year's FY 25-26 budget in June of 25 upon approval with this year's FY 26-27 fiscal year budget. The line items are broken out according to our work breakdown structure. So we have the major phases of the program in blue: program management office, program initiation, program delivery. The initiation phase is winding down. I'm sure this board will recall through past meetings that these phases have pretty well-defined definitions. Program management office will exist for the duration of the project. It's responsible for managing all phases of the program and includes activities like executive office and a variety of other items that you see listed underneath that phase. Program initiation is where the engineering work associated with the permitting and planning phase of the program is performed. And so this is where the initial concept evaluation, engineering to support permits is all performed under program initiation. Once all major permits are in hand and we begin the process of final design and delivery, program initiation will completely close out. So what's reflected in this transition, you see there's a couple of key points. Last year, I think I recall discussing with the finance committee, we're no longer doing field work under program initiation. At this point, there is a selected project, which was the Bethany Reservoir Alternative back in the sequel stages of the program. It is now the Delta Conveyance project. The field work surveying has now moved into the program delivery phase so that we're capturing those costs within the program delivery and that they will ultimately feed the design and delivery of the project. So we don't want to muddy them up with costs associated with engineering support for permitting. On the engineering item that you see under program initiation, that is largely the budget associated with the advanced engineering that's been done over the past year plus to advance the overall concept design from what was about a net 10% design level maturity to something more akin to a 20-25% design maturity. So that's a significant system-wide engineering lift that's required to then support the cost estimate at a class 3 level. So the reduction that you see in the engineering activities between last year and this year is largely that. Cost estimating work is substantially contained within the program management office. There is some of that still left in engineering, but you can see that significant reduction between last year's budget and this year's, largely associated with that shift in terms of where we capture those costs. Beyond that, I think the changes are pretty consistent. We have some ups and downs here and there. But really nothing that jumps out at me is particularly stark, but I'd be happy to answer any questions here within this budget summary. I can pause here if you'd like. President Omar, keep going. I think we just have more slides.
Are there any questions at this point? I would say continue. Keep going.
Okay, go ahead, Claudia. So here we have our budget by vendor slide. And so this summarizes, and instead of by activity or task, this is by vendor within the program. But the same themes persist here in that last year, 25-26, the vendor Jacobs and their subcontractors were performing the bulk of the engineering work. That contractor had nearly half of the approved budget for last fiscal year. At this point, we'll see other vendors such as AECOM just underneath that, who then is leading our geotechnical exploration program with a substantially larger portion of this next fiscal year's budget. Similarly, we have a couple of different surveying contractors, SOMAS being one of them, that the other being Michael Baker, that are now receiving higher than last year's contracted amounts associated with additional fieldwork and surveying activities. So the shifts that you see here between the vendor amounts between last year and this year are consistent with the shifts we just talked about in terms of priority and focus. Lastly, you'll notice there are a few contractors that last year did not have line item budgets within the FY 25-26 compared to this year they do. In many cases, those are vendors that were awarded contracts last summer as part of the executive services support contracts, and especially those that were awarded contracts in August. Meaning in June, we did not get identified scope of the budget. So next slide, please, Claudia. There are a number of materials available within the packet. We can review summary or detail level information. It's all contained within Exhibit A. It's structured generally in the form of a work breakdown structure. And so just as a reminder, one of the complexities here is that vendors who are working on specific activities within the program, we use a work breakdown structure to actually create the DCA's view of the work we do and blend vendors into specific activities. And so that crosswalk is an important crosswalk that has to occur within the program. So when you see the budgets presented in Exhibit A, they are reflected in terms of our work breakdown structure. The budget by vendor is what we use to then engage those vendors with task order scopes, budgets, contracts with specific activities. But really from a DCA perspective, it's the work breakdown structure that hinges it together.
I think Director Martin led the Finance Committee, and he might want to make a comment before we move on.
Yes, President Millibar. Oh, have I unmuted? Okay. I had a question for Josh before we continue. The agenda item identifies this as a public hearing. Do we take comments from the board and discussion from the board and motion before the public hearing is closed?
Yeah, so we will close the public hearing before we request the motion, Director Martin.
What about public comment?
It'll be public comment will occur prior to closing the public hearing. So we'll finish comments. We'll answer Director Martin's question. Then we'll take public comment. Then I recommend we close the public hearing and then we can take a motion.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, President Millibar. First of all, I'd like to thank the other members of the committee, Sarah Palmer and yourself, President Millibar, for joining me in the Finance Committee's efforts to review the 26-27 budget. It was similar to the process we used last year. We started off with a process, rather with a presentation from Graham on what the budget review process would be. Then we were given the first draft of the budget, and the committee provided feedback, basically asking where these numbers come from. My questions for Graham, and he satisfied all of my questions, that the task orders were developed as a collaborative effort between staff and our consultants and vendors. And then the proposals were reviewed by staff for a number of times, and it's been reviewed by DWR, which has approved it. And so we reached the point on the committee where we were satisfied with the information we got on our questions in the several meetings we held. And so with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the FY 26-27 budget as identified in the recommendation request.
We need to open for public comment.
Please.
Any public comment before we proceed?
President Millibar, I can validate that we haven't gotten any requests online for this item or any item on the agenda or in person. I look to our remote locations to confirm.
No public comment.
No public comment.
Director Millibar, before we see if there's a second to Director Martin's motion, I just wanted to make one note. You may have noticed on the agenda that there's a reference to this public hearing, in addition being a discussion of the budget, also being a discussion of vacancies. You may be aware from your home agencies that legislation was adopted a few years ago that requires agencies to have a public hearing to discuss vacancies at the district before approval of the budget. The DCA doesn't have any employees, but to ensure strict compliance with the law, we include that as part of the agenda item this afternoon. But that's all we have. Thank you.
Okay. And we don't have any public comment, and so we need a second to Director Martin's motion.
Can I ask you a question, Chair?
Sure.
So, or General Counsel, do we need to make a motion to open the public hearing? Is that
Yeah.
we automatically open? Exactly. And
Motion to close the public hearing.
But thank you. I know each agency slightly.
Director Mayor just put forward a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Director Shimura. We're not required to have a motion to close the public hearing. That's something that the president can do if he's, whenever he's ready.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Do we have a second to the,
I think we want to close the public hearing and then
close the public hearing?
Is that right, Josh?
But yeah, please, if you're ready, when you're ready to close the public hearing.
Do we have a roll call vote on that?
No, so you'll be able to close the public hearing, just by announcing that whenever you're ready. And then, once we have a second to Director Martin's motion, then we can call the roll for the vote.
Okay. So also, the public hearing is closed and one is the second of the motion. So we can have a roll call vote.
let me make the motion if I might, and now that we've closed the hearing and then see a second.
Oh, I thought,
We had a first reading of it.
Yeah,
It's premature because we still have the hearing open.
So we can move forward if the board would like. Another alternative is if Director Martin would like to clarify that he's still in favor of his initial motion.
That's fine.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So now we're ready to call.
okay.
President Millibar,
I,
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Garza,
Aye.
Director Stamera,
aye.
Alternate Director Blinsky,
Yes.
Alternate Director Lamoureux,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
so we have approved the 26-27 fiscal year budget. We'll move on to item 8F. Adopt resolution commending and thanking Jacquelyn McMillan for her service to the board. And Graham can start this off.
Thank you, Senator. Director Jacquelyn McMillan served on the DCA's Board of Directors since March of 2025 as an alternate director representing Metropolitan Water District and transitioned into the director role upon Miguel Luna's retirement from the DCA Board in November of 2025. However, staff was recently informed that Director McMillan has stepped down from both the Metropolitan Water District Board and the DCA Board. So this item is an opportunity to recognize and thank Director McMillan for her service on the Board of Directors and role as the board's legislative liaison. As a member of the Board of Directors, Director McMillan was instrumental in its continued growth and development of the DCA. We're incredibly appreciative of Director McMillan's contributions to the organization. Staff thanks Ms. McMillan for her efforts and wishes her well in her future endeavors. The recommended action, staff recommends that the board adopt a resolution commending and thanking Director McMillan for her service to the DCA Board of Directors.
I'll start by saying thank you very much for your service to this board and for many other directors that would like to make a comment.
Thanks, sir. Director McMillan. I was appreciative and impressed by her ability to make as many of the meetings in person. I'm from Southern California, up to Sacramento, and showed a great deal of diligence in her review and understanding of the issues. So, thank you.
So
Any comment?
you asking for additional comment, President Millibar?
Yes, please.
Yes, I would like to make a comment. I was very happy to see Director McMillan joining our board, and I wish her well, and I thank her for all the efforts she put forth on behalf of the DCA board. I am a little disappointed that I won't get to work with her any further on this board, as having known her for many years, I know she's an excellent director, and I wish her well and thank her for her contributions.
Okay, any other comments? Public comment. Any public comment on this item?
President Millibar, no public comment requests in the room, online.
No
What about from our remote locations?
No
No.
public comment.
Okay,
Call a vote,
pardon?
ready to call a vote?
We haven't had a motion. I move to adopt resolution commending and thanking Jacquelyn McMillan for her service to the board. And we all thank her very much for her efforts.
I appreciate the honor to be able to second that.
And we have a second, so we can proceed with the roll call vote.
President Milbar.
Here. I mean, I.
Aye.
Thank you, Director Martin. Director Gertler.
Aye.
Director Stamera.
Aye.
Alternate Director Plinsky.
Yes.
Alternate Director Lamoureux.
Yes,
And Director Weed.
Aye.
Okay, approved. We'll move on to item 9, reports. Before we start reports, we will take all public comment on the staff reports and announcement now. If you would like to make or provide a public comment on any reports, please let us know. Ms. Rodriguez. Any comment?
President Milbar. No public comment requests in the room or online. Remote locations, any public comment requests?
No public comment from Santa Clarita.
Okay, we can proceed.
Okay, item A is Josh is our general counsel's report.
Thanks, President Milbar. So as always, the written reports in the packet, I just wanted to highlight one item, which is the last item. And that's just a reminder on the upcoming elections of board officers. So under our bylaws, officers serve 2-year terms. And in this instance, the current terms will nominally end at the end of this month. And staff will be agendizing election of the officers for the next 2-year term for our first board meeting of that term, which will be in August. And consistent with past practice, the incumbents will serve until the election of their successors in August. Happy to answer any questions on that or anything else in the report.
Any questions of Josh? Okay. We'll move on to the treasurer's report, Adam Benson.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Adam Benson here with Metropolitan. The Treasurer's Monthly Report for April and May 2026 is attached in the packet. You'll see that we had an opening cash balance of about 3.6 million. And during those 2 months, we received a total of about 6.8 million in contributions. During that same time, we had disbursements of about 9.7 million, resulting in an ending cash balance of approximately $739,000. And that concludes the presentation, and I am here as well as some members of my team to answer any questions if the board has any.
Any questions from Adam? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to item C, Communications Report, Jessica. And usually,
Right here.
Did you do good in your event in Denver?
Yellowstone, and I did, thank
Oh,
you.
Yellowstone,
The half
wow.
marathon, it was a lot of fun. Beautiful scenery.
Did they go, there's a big loop there, like
Yeah, we were just outside of the park actually, so in West Yellowstone, we ran through the woods.
Oh, okay.
It's a fabulous experience.
Oh, good.
Thanks for
I'm glad
asking.
you did well.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be back with you all today to provide the communications update for our team for May. So Claudia, if you want to go to the dashboard, we'll start there. So we kicked off the month at the Aqua Spring Conference, where we had the opportunity, I know, to see several members of the board as well as our participating water agency. We had an exhibit booth, as you can see in the photo there, which was a great opportunity to provide information on the project and answer questions. We also worked last month to start with an update that we're making to all of our tour materials. So we worked through an update to the map book, as well as the posters that we're using on the tours to help tour participants better follow along as we go and make sure that we have our latest and greatest visuals and information as we've been updating fact sheets and working through other communications material updates. Wanted to flow those into the tour experience as well. We've also been coordinating closely with the technical services team to support the field work that's taking place now on the geotechnical side, And then lastly, we have a new fact sheet that we've put out with some fast facts on the Bethany complex. We're working through some translations of that fact sheet now to make sure we have those available, as well as some of the earlier fact sheets. The two we put out last year, we did already have translated into Chinese and Spanish. Those are online, and so these other ones are in process and will be online and shared via social media very soon. Earlier this week, hopefully everybody received our next quarterly DCA newsletter. So that's where we provide a snapshot of not only the activities happening at DCA, but the work on the permitting side. We've included resources or links, to the latest resources on the communication side from both DWR and DCA. So it's a great central repository of the latest information. I have a screenshot later on, but we have also added it to our website. And this was a question at one of the earlier board meetings that we had, making sure that in addition to our mailing list, it's also available and accessible online to anybody who might be looking for it. I think Claudia, let's go ahead and go to the next slides for the events and stuff that are detailed. Thank you. On the DWR side, it was also a big month on the communication side. So you'll see there was a new, what we call the Wheels of Progress, that was put out to the DWR email list and shared online. Catherine will provide more in her update, but one of those big milestones was the Endangered Species Act permitting and the completion there. So DWR made sure to get that out to all of their lists. Next slide, please. You may recall a little bit earlier this year, Janet Barbieri with DWR joined me for an update to the board on our communication strategy for the year, a lot of which was informed by conversations we've had with the various PWAs. And one of the things that we're looking at this year is, as we are doing fact sheets, as we are working through our social media, how do we continue to make the information more easily digestible? There is no shortage of information out there, but it's how do we continue to look at ways to make it more visual, doing more of this infographic feel, making sure those data points are easily digestible. So these are two of the ones that came out recently from DWR. One that's on the community effects and the mitigation, and then the other one that's around protecting water supplies and how the modernization of this infrastructure will do that. More to come this year. You can go to the events. Thank you. So as we mentioned, we were at Aqua in May. We were pleased to welcome the Palmdale Water District on a tour of the site at the end of the Aqua Conference week. A couple industry outreach events that our team has supported. One was a construction network water panel down in Southern California in May. And then just this week, actually, our team's flying back later today from the North America Tunneling Conference. Our executive director, Graham, was there earlier this week as well. So it's just another example of how we're starting to ratchet up on the industry outreach side to make sure we're out there sharing the information that we do have available right now on upcoming RFQs and answering questions, hearing from them on what's going to be important as we move forward and look at opportunities to bid. Coming up in August, we have the Southern California Building Industry Association Water Conference, and then in San Diego, the Urban Water Institute Annual Conference in mid-August. So here's a couple screenshots of the newsletter. Again, goes out to our mailing list. And then not only is it online, but it's also featured on the homepage of our website under the latest news. We also send out social media directing people to it as well. So again, continuing to try to find just new ways, make sure we're using all the channels we can to make sure this information is out there. And then speaking of the website, on the website analytics side, it was interesting. We reported last month, I believe, about our updated document library on the website. So we revamped that page to make it easier for people to find and access information. You can search by topic, you can search by language, you can search by type of material. And we spent some time driving people there through our social media primarily. We've also featured that in our newsletter. And what we saw is that while the number of sessions decreased a little, we were actually seeing the page views and the time go up. So that means the people that were visiting the site were spending more time interacting with the information, which is really what we do want to see. And we've continued to see that bounce rate go down as well, which is another stat we closely monitor as we're looking at visitors to the site. And then lastly, on the social media side, we really leaned into LinkedIn last month, and that was really purposeful as we were at the Aqua conference. So there we were. We did this week at the tunneling conference as well. So posting in real time and sharing our booth number and encouraging people to stop by and see us, knowing that those are audiences who really are online and on LinkedIn. We also advertised or promoted our new document library experience via LinkedIn. So that's where we saw the most growth, not as much on the other channels, because again, our strategy last month, based on where we were and the audiences we were seeking to reach, we really mostly used the LinkedIn platform. So that concludes the report, but I would be happy to answer questions from the board.
Complete report, and I'm happy to see that you're going in other directions, and that's probably why people are spending a little more time looking at what you're presenting. So, very good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Now we'll move on to DWR Environmental Report, Catherine Marquez.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm here for Carrie Buckman today. So just to provide that report, DWR is continuing to take the next steps in pursuing numerous state and federal permits and authorizations. One of the big ones recently was the Endangered Species Act permits. We received biological opinions from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in March and from the National Marine Fisheries Service in May. And these cover construction and construction-related maintenance activities. This is an important milestone because it marks the completion of that Endangered Species Act process for construction. Of course, compliance with the Endangered Species Act is required to ensure the project will not jeopardize the continued existence of any federally listed species or adversely modify or destroy listed critical habitat. Moving on to the water rights process, the State Water Board hearing process on DWR's petition to add 2 new points of diversions has completed 3 phases. So the first phase was DWR's presentation of its case in chief. Secondly was the protestants' presentation of their case in chief. And then there was DWR's rebuttal of the protestants' testimony. During this month of June, the protestants have been giving verbal summaries of their rebuttal testimony. And then DWR has requested SIR rebuttals to follow up on some of the content of that, the information raised in the protestants' rebuttal testimony. And that should happen in August, or the oral summaries would happen in August. For Delta Climate Consistency, the Delta Stewardship Council issued a decision on the Delta Conveyance Project certification of consistency with the Delta Plan on April 23rd that dismissed or denied the vast majority of appeals, with a limited remand to DWR for future clarification on 2 policy areas. Remands are a standard part of the certification of consistency process. And it provides an opportunity for us to supplement or clarify portions of the record in a revised certification. And DWR is currently working on that revised certification to complete that process. And that's it. Any questions?
What's the timeline on the water rates to get a decision out of the water board?
So I know that SIR rebuttal oral summaries are going to be in August, and I don't know if there are additional hearing dates after that August timeframe, but once the hearing is completed, there is quite a bit of time that is required for the water board to issue a draft decision and then finally adopt the decision. And I don't know if we have a specific date for that, but it would not, I think we're expecting the hearings to be completed in this year, so 2026, with the decision not 27.
Any other questions? Catherine? Okay, we'll move on and thank you for your report. The last report is for the directors. Any verbal reports? Oh, that's us.
Zone 7 and Alameda County Water District share seat. We have a 2-year cycle. Sarah Palmer will become the director, effective 1 July. My board has selected me again for another 2 years as being the alternate director. So thank you.
Great, thank you, John.
We look forward to seeing you in a couple more years anyway. Okay.
Chairman,
Pardon?
if I may, can I make some comments?
Oh,
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank staff and residents for the warm welcome. Looking forward to serving with everyone. Thank you.
You've been very into the agenda already in your first meeting, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you again.
Okay.
President Milbar, we have a public comment request from alternate director Palmer.
Oh, well, very good. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just wanted to say that John and I have been working together and cooperating with one another, and Zone 7 has approved me going ahead and resuming as a regular director and John as alternate. So we're just swapping out. We'll be back.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I guess we're adjourned.
We're adjourned. I think so. We're ready.